Hello and good morning. Have you heard the latest? Affairs can improve your marriage. Well, that's what so-called experts say. They argue that it can strengthen a relationship. But can a marriage really survive infidelity? Can it, Paul? Can you overcome the unfaithfulness of one partner and continue in a marriage?
It's very, very hard. Me and my wife, we're together again now, and we're getting back to the stage where we was before. As for
what happened?
Basically, my wife was unfaithful, and I went in the church. I bugged the phone of her lover. The conversation
between
the sexual conversation that she had with her lover. And
what, you presumably then you had suspicions that she was having a relationship?
Well, yeah, obviously by this time that there was something very dodgy going on. And what I did was I tape recorded the call, and when I found out the gentleman concerned was going to a christening and he was going to be the godparent, I went to the church and in front of everybody, family and friends, I played the tape at full blast.
What kind of things were on the tape? Without going into too much kind of lurid detail.
Well, basically that what two lovers would talk about in sexual graphic
Lorraine
details.
Wasn't present then?
She wasn't, no.
Did you know he was going to do it?
No.
When did you find out what he'd done?
When he came back.
What did he say to you?
He says, I've just been in a church and blasted all what you've said to him on the phone.
Is this the first time you knew that Paul knew about your relationship? Or
no, he actually came. The first thing I knew about him, knowing about it, we got in bed like you do every night with your husband, and he went, who's the name of the fella? And I went, oh, I don't know. And then he come out with some more information he had, and I said, yeah, it's true. I've been having an affair.
What did you feel
and
then?
I'm glad the light was off. I really am. I wanted the ground to swallow me up. Because he found out.
And what did you do next?
And that's that is when you went and did that, isn't it?
Was your inclination to break up the marriage, or was it always your intention that it should?
Well, at the time, obviously I was in shock over it, and I don't believe that anybody should ever have to listen to the tape that I listened to. Some things are better left to the imagination.
But you chose to listen to, you bugged
Well,
them.
I had to confirm my suspicions. Having confirmed my suspicions, it's something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. I spoke to the gentleman concerned. In actual fact, when I actually confronted my wife about it, she was quite indignant and said that I'd invaded her privacy.
Quite right too, I can hear somebody saying that.
Well, that mattered not to me at that moment in time. I was quite indignant that she was being indignant about the fact that I had actually listened to a conversation of my wife talking to her lover. And at that point I decided that having spoken to I won't call him a gentleman, having spoken to the other third party, second party, whatever, he was very arrogant about it, and I decided that in one way or another he had to stop.
That was revenge.
It was
But what
revenge,
about
yeah.
your marriage? Do you feel that you can trust Lorraine now? Will it continue?
Well, at the moment my wife is pregnant. We're expecting another child in August. We're getting back to the way that we used to be. There are occasions that when she goes to bingo, I feel a bit lonely, a bit isolated, and I wonder, is she actually going to bingo? I'm getting over it.
Do you follow her?
Yes, well, I used to follow her. It actually dominated my life in that.
Do you like him following her?
No.
But you smiled and laughed.
Because I know it's true. He said, I've seen your car, and he's actually pinpointed where I've been at that particular time. Where were you hiding? You know, and I know I felt as though he's been watching me, but I couldn't see him.
And can a marriage survive an infidelity?
No, definitely not.
Why?
Because you never trust them ever again. You feel second rate, and there's no point in going on. If they've been out with another woman, you might as well forget it and go on to the next thing.
Is that what you did?
No, I didn't. I just thought I'd better off out of it.
What happened to you?
My husband had an affair. I was absolutely devastated. We tried to make the marriage work, but I couldn't live with the fact that he'd been with another woman.
What I can say about that is, at some point in time, I was that devastated that I tried to commit suicide shortly afterwards.
Well, I'd never be that devastated over anything.
Well, we're talking about
nobody's worth
devastation here.
that.
I was absolutely gutted. When I actually heard the tape of what happened, I felt as though somebody had poured acid all over me, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But I'm here now, and I've got over it, getting over it. It's still at the back of my mind. All I will say to people is this: having adultery being committed to you, don't let it ruin your life in that if you're still with that person, to pursue them to the fact that you will always be watching them, but occasionally check on it.
Well, I must admit, when you find out that your partner's been unfaithful, it's the most devastating feeling in the whole world. But you can never get over that feeling, and you can never, ever trust them again. And if they've done it once, they'll do it again. So really, you're better off calling it a day and carrying on with life.
Hold on, please, one at a time.
Yes.
Sorry, go on.
I'll have to say that I was involved. I was cheating on my husband, and it went on for 5 years. He found out about it. I hated the lies. My children found out about it. I felt terribly guilty, and I was suicidal myself. Unfortunately, my husband died before we could have much of a chance to reconcile. It seemed better when it did come out in the open. And since I had an affair, then he went on and he had an affair. So that was really two families that were hurt by this. And not only was my husband hurt, my children hurt, possibly the other woman's family hurt. But I'm sure that
But the marriage survived.
Well,
your
my
marriage.
marriage didn't survive because my husband died. There was a moment when it all fell out in the open, and we started to be honest with one another, that I thought, well, maybe there can be some closeness here. Maybe we can pick up the pieces. Maybe there can be forgiveness. There was no chance. Yet.
But you felt that you could do that. You felt that there could be, given if you hadn't had the circumstances where your husband died, but that you could have retrieved your marriage. There could have been, your words, you've just employed them, closeness, some openness, some reconciliation, I think is the word you used.
I think if we had gone to counseling at that point, and if I had been willing to totally let go of the man I was having the affair with.
I suppose what it depends on is whether the marriage is more important than the infidelity. And what binds the marriage together, whatever it is, can that not be the case, Audrey? That whatever binds the marriage together is more important than perhaps the occasional infidelity or whatever of one partner? Is that not possible?
No. My husband was an absolute rat. I had a mastectomy and I was going through a traumatic time, and he was in a full-blown affair with a woman that worked at the hospital where I was having, treatment, and she just would not stop. She wouldn't let go. He told her in front of me that it was over between them, and she still kept on, with it and wouldn't leave it.
And what did you do?
In the end, I was so devastated by the way I felt
Well, mine.
that I just, I had to concentrate and getting myself right and better.
But because of that unfaithfulness, your marriage was ended. That ended your marriage. You couldn't. There's no way you could have put it back together again, or were you not prepared to?
No, she wouldn't allow it to do. She wouldn't, and probably not him, but she wouldn't give it a chance. She wouldn't let him.
Don't you think your husband should have been stronger to tell her? Just say, look, leave me alone.
Of course.
I've done
Correct,
that.
yeah.
When I did it to my husband, I said,
He was a weak man. He was
I want
weak
to get
to
on
do
with my
what he
life.
did when I was so very ill.
Do you think
He
this
just
is
did
it
it.
worse? Is it more difficult if it's a woman that commits adultery than a man? Is it harder for a man to cope with his wife's unfaithfulness than a wife to cope with a man's? Do you think?
I'd say my experience, yes, is that a man would find it more difficult because of his image of having a woman being unfaithful to him. Women, I tend to feel, can forgive more and easier than men. Well, you should be able to. I mean, in my position...
And, go on, what?
Why should a woman be able to forgive a man more?
It's in your genes.
No,
it's within... Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Men have made it.
One at a time.
If you look at man's history through the ages, he's always had more women than one.
Yes.
But always, yes, all animals do, all men do.
Why should men have two
in today's...
women
Oh, I'm
and
not
just
saying
one
we
man,
should.
then?
I'm not saying we should. I disagree with that. We should have more partners than one.
Rubbish.
I got involved with a situation that ruined my marriage with another person. I wish that my wife could have been forgiving to me. And we, I know, would have had even a better marriage. We had a wonderful family, a wonderful marriage.
Well, why did you go with another woman then?
Because I was away in the business that I'm in, I was away for a long time. We did have problems within the marriage.
Right.
My wife was not as loving as I wanted her to be. Consequently, things happened, which I can't go... We'd need another 3 programmes to go over it all. Would you like to book it?
No, no.
And consequently, my marriage broke. I had a wonderful family, I got wonderful children.
Well, you shouldn't have been going
And
with
it shouldn't have
another woman.
broken. If my wife had been forgiving, it would have made a better marriage for us.
Sheila.
But in my position, I wonder if I could have forgiven my wife. I think I could.
Sheila.
I think it's
But
really
most
sad
men couldn't.
that you're saying you had such a good marriage and then you let it all trickle through your fingers.
Well, I didn't let it go. I tried to bring it
You
back
let it
together.
go when you went
I
into an affair, when you went into the first
really,
affair.
no.
You were saying, I'm not
No.
going to mend what's wrong, I'm going to go off and find distraction elsewhere. It's what would you say if you came home and your wife said, the cooker's broken, so we're going to eat out in future? I mean,
I'd mend it.
inconvenient, expensive. You'd mend it, but you didn't mend your marriage.
I tried.
You didn't go to relate.
I tried.
You didn't go
I didn't
for
have to go to
counselling.
relate.
Why? But,
Oh, really?
But what we're asking is,
wouldn't
is it, do men find it more difficult then to mend
used
their
to.
marriages or maintain their marriages than women do?
They used to find it more difficult to come to relate, certainly when I first
Well, he's
started
not coming to relate,
counselling.
he's coming to where they're married, a hole in their marriage.
You're right, yes, addressing the problem, agreeing that there's a problem, yes.
They find
yeah.
it more difficult.
I think so.
Why is that? Why do men find it more difficult to deal with it, do you think?
Self-esteem and confidence, isn't it?
What, for men?
For men, I think most men. Sorry, I think most men are very, very weak, and obviously it's inside them, isn't it? It's lack of confidence and lack of self. They don't like themselves enough, do they?
How are men
It's an
weak?
ego.
We're not weak.
Well, from my experiences, I think that they just lack something.
She's saying men find it more difficult to deal with the problem, to face it, because they're weaker.
They can't face up to it. You know, they find it really. They don't want to face it. They'd rather just walk away from it.
But for every man that's got some kind of problem in their relationship, they go off with another woman. So,
Well, that's a sign of weakness, isn't it?
That's the easiest thing.
so,
It's the
so
easiest.
why is it then that another woman would take on another man?
Maybe the other woman's, you know.
Why do people have affairs?
I had an affair simply because I was put to the back. My wife put my children before me, she put herself before me, she even put the dog before me. I was out working 70, 80 hours a
Why are
week.
they laughing? Why are they laughing? Do you notice that these women are laughing at you? This is not fair, ladies. Absolutely, there are more women. She put the dog before him and you laughed. It's not funny.
That's the way I feel. You know, but after saying that, at the moment, my ex-wife is one of my best friends. Same with my children. I've got my young lad. He basically takes on the father
But
role.
you're saying you had an affair because you felt unloved, basically.
Yeah, basically,
because
yeah.
Other things were. The
yeah.
dog was loved more than you.
Yeah.
I think
Then
they'll
it was.
look for any excuse though to have an affair, and they'll blame anything.
I
They'll
got
look
to-
for an
I-
excuse
I got
and
to
they'll
a-
say,
I
"Oh, well,
got-
she's done this."
No, I got to
I'm
a
going
stage
have
with
an
I got to a
affair."
stage with my ex-wife is I came that close to hitting her. We had a Barney one hell of a row one day, and I thought that's it.
Didn't
I
you
had to
think
go
of any
out.
other solutions though?
At the time, no. Met this other lady who I thought was very attractive. That
You see Anne? You see Anne there?
Yeah.
There you go. She's saying.
Yeah,
I think she's got
and
your number.
Yeah, and she seemed to understand me, give me what I wanted, talk. We sat in my car and talked for hours.
So it was a classic my wife didn't understand me syndrome.
Probably, yeah.
And you weren't able to go to your wife and say, I feel you don't understand me and what can we do about this?
I think we've gone past that.
Why?
We'd had 17 years together, you know, and I think
Why?
Mind you, another,
Why do people have affairs?
For all sorts of reasons.
Yeah.
For all sorts of reasons, because they are not getting their needs met within the marriage and they look outside, because they're feeling unloved, because it's an excitement. Many
You said
reasons.
excitement. You were saying excitement.
Probably they get bored and don't speak to one another and they meet someone else and a bit of excitement, and that's how it happens.
Is it?
well,
I suppose.
one of the
Which I suppose like that, doesn't it? Every affair or
Yes.
relationship situation starts with the excitement in the beginning.
Yes.
I think one of the things that was classic in my case that people make a joke about is when you're having sex, she turns around and says, "Oh, by the way, the kids need new shoes." And it actually happened.
She must have been bored with you then. She must have been boring. She must have been very bored. She's talking about shoes and you're having sex with her.
John?
What about the girl, does she talk about shoes, the new one you're with now?
Ah, there we go to another subject. That ended in October.
Oh,
I'm just getting over that.
For the same reason. John, why do they stray?
Not
Well,
because of me. It was because somebody else.
Hold on, my friend.
In my situation, I was married 23, 24 years. I was very, very happy. I gave my wife everything. But of course, affairs are a way of life. I went on into another relationship for several years, and the lady I was with, I wouldn't live with her because of her standards, but...
Her standards?
Her standards, yeah, her standards. Yes. See, you all go, oh, you don't listen. No, but there was reasons. She was always looking for something better. She was never happy with me. In fact, she
The one you had an affair with?
No, after my marriage. Oh, you're not listening.
Well, I missed a bit, yeah.
And she went off with someone else just for sex. And
I think they do. I think people
I've
do.
always said men are deeper lovers than women, and that man over there has proved it today. But no, come on. And that man said the same.
Go on,
Yeah,
Cherry.
but the thing is...
Cherry, please, no, one at a time. I can't get you all.
Okay,
Cherry.
I had an affair with a married man, and I'm not proud of it, but he told me, and they always tell you it's the same old story that, you know, my wife doesn't understand. It was a bit further. His marriage was over. It was finished. It was dead. You know, there was no sex. There was no love. She was killing herself with alcohol. I know. This is what they do. He told me, and I actually believed him at the time.
How many times do you women hear these stories and listen to it?
Believe me, all the time.
Well, a married man is very, very convincing.
Well, why do you fall for it?
Because there's a systemic in being a woman and wanting to trust and believe a man.
You're much more cleverer than us.
No, it's not. No, I'm not.
You're much more devious and clever.
Oh no, I am probably, but not in regards to relationships.
Jean, why do people do it?
You know.
I think it's because of excitement, looking for something that they haven't got, maybe. I don't know. I really don't know. My husband left me after 35 years. He'd sent me a lovely bouquet for our anniversary, lovely, lovely card. And a fortnight after, he says, "I'm leaving."
And what reasons did he give?
He wanted to be on his own, so he said. But I didn't believe that was the reason, because I had suspected for maybe a year that his relationship with his secretary was more than business.
That's got somewhere to go. They don't just go to somebody.
How do you know?
They do go. Men are like that. That's the way men
Most
are.
of them don't go though, do they? I mean,
No, they stay.
They stay.
Most,
They don't go.
Yes, no,
But you mean if
correct.
they leave, whatever the reasons they're giving, they've got somebody tucked away.
Yes.
They're going.
Yeah, oh, I agree. Men don't go to be on their own.
No.
They've always got the next one to go.
Does that apply to women too? When women
No,
go?
women never have it. Women never have it.
Women are more self-sufficient.
Yeah, well, they become that way, don't they? You
Yes.
have to be. Eventually, you have to become self-sufficient.
I think women. I think that they're right. That women often survive much better on their own than men do.
Yeah.
I mean, we see that
We're not
when
talking about surviving,
after widows and
why.
after being widowed, you know, men generally move into another relationship. Women often are on their own.
And they always wait.
But I
They
think
wait
there are
till they've got the
particular
relationship.
triggers for an affair. I mean, I think there are particular times when a marriage is vulnerable, and often that's when the balance shifts. I mean, when you were ill, you were presumably not as available for your husband as you had been previously. The little boy in him comes out, he wants his mum, she's not there. And so he looks elsewhere.
Absolutely
Another one
Oh, you meant
is when-
available, not just
emotionally
sexually.
available. Emotionally available.
Physically.
Emotionally
around.
available.
Yeah.
I think another trigger point is when a new baby comes into the family, or the first baby very often.
Yeah.
And that's, again, it's not because people often, I think, traditionally thought that's because, you know, the wife's not sexually there now. It's not sexually there. It's that their mind is moved on to something else. They've got a baby to look after. The man is no longer the baby in the family, if you like.
But you're talking about why men. What about
I'm talking
why
about
women?
why men.
Why women?
Well, often I think women, it's a similar cry for help. It's a similar, there's something wrong here.
'Cause the men
and I
are
don't know how else to
emotionally-
express it except looking outside the marriage for some other comfort. And I think sometimes, if you then look back within the marriage, if the marriage is strong enough to actually do it, the marriage has to be quite strong in the first place, you can, as Sheila I'm sure has seen, move on from there. If you're prepared to look at what was happening in the marriage, if both people are prepared to do that, if both people, but both people have to be prepared to do it, and look at where they can go back to and then move on from there. Why did it happen in the first place? What were the reasons it happened? Is there any room for growth there? Then it's possible to move on, not always.
OK, so there we're talking about, and we've got examples here of people who've survived, they're making their marriage work. Our so-called experts at this conference at the beginning of the week were also saying it can improve your marriage, an affair. Can it improve your marriage?
It can't, excuse me, it can't improve your marriage, but I think my wife summed it up, and I'll just put it on to my wife.
No, from my own personal experience, I'm the adulteress, so I'm the woman, and from my personal experience, I've got a very low sex drive, he's got a high one. I didn't like a lot of sex. Oh, yeah, it seems weird, doesn't it? And I've found that you become friends more than lovers in a marriage. You seem to be becoming like sort of every day-to-day chores. You sort of, I love, yeah, Ralph, no, and things like that. And you're just good friends eventually, and that's where I found that I went for the affair, because we were just like friends. We weren't husband and wife anymore. There was something missing, and that's where I found, that's why I went out.
So your affair could start off as good friends, you know, very good friends, which has happened in my daughter's case. He went off with a very good friend, a friend of Jacqueline's. Yeah. But then, yes, maybe the woman does do it for comfort, for a friend, but then it just gets more and more and more involved. You know, I'm not sticking up for the man, but the man gets to a point where he gets so involved in the friendship with the lady, he doesn't know how to get out. And, you know, this has happened in our case. He doesn't know how to leave the other woman, in fact.
But these professors who've been kind of lecturing us have been saying that, oh, we're making too much fuss about unfaithfulness nowadays, and we should take the view that actually marriages can survive infidelity, and we know that, and we've seen it. People can get their act together. They're saying more than that. They're saying, in some cases, it actually makes the marriage better. It improves the marriage, either because it adds spice or danger, or because he's watching where she is now, so he's being a good husband and what have you.
It's nice to think...
I mean, is there an element of what we're asking? Are these experts right? Because we're the real experts.
Well, it's down to the... Yes, that's right, and that's quite right. It's down to the individual, isn't it? You know, it's lovely that you've got back together again, but I agree with the lady down there. There's always that not trust. There is some point where you won't trust each other.
Okay, the marriage, does it improve? Does it make it better? Does it bring an extra dimension?
Well, it didn't improve in my case. He was doing it 2 years behind my back with my best friend. I knew exactly all what was going on.
This is not...
No, this is my new husband.
Because you're nodding in his direction as if he was doing it behind your back.
No, this is my new husband.
Right, so your previous husband?
Yeah, and he was going out on call and telling me that it was the job that needed him, and it wasn't. It was the young lady, my best mate. He tried to lie for 2 years. In between that time, I had 2 children. And he made me have sterilisation after my 3rd one. And it just didn't mend for me. I couldn't accept the way he was. You know, he'd done it 6 weeks after I was married. He'd done his first affair. And then a year later, he'd done exactly the same with my best friend. And, you know, I tried to mend the first time, and I just couldn't the second time.
Jill? I think there's a difference, isn't there? Please. I think there's a difference between someone who, after years of a marriage, suddenly decides, you know, or finds themselves in a situation where they're in an affair, and someone who betrays right from the off.
Yeah, it was just
and I think there are people who are what I call serial adulterers, where they will always have a relationship on the side because they cannot commit to one, and they have to. It's like a child who has to keep coming reassured that someone else likes them and fancies them.
There's insecurity, deep insecurity, deep inadequacy that needs to be constantly assuaged, reassured.
They will never be good at long-term relationships. Those people never.
Well, in that case, how does that affect your attitude to the concept of marriage, or to?
Well, it took me quite a long time. I was under psychiatric care with it, and I was on Valium, 15 milligrams a day.
Can you trust men?
I'm just starting to trust Terry. You know, he's a smashing bloke, but he had to give up pool, he had to give up darts, so I couldn't make myself sure that he was going to... How long have you been with Terry? I've been with him nearly 2 years now.
Is she watching your back all the time?
No, not no more. She used to. She stopped me from going to all the sports I used to go to, pool, darts. I mean, I used to play football, and I had to give that up because everywhere I went, she wanted to know who it was with, why, when, what time I'm getting back.
Right. Is he the same with you?
Oh yeah. In fact, it's brought the best out in him. He brings me flowers, and he never used to. He brings me chocolates, and he never used to. I like being pampered like that, and I like him telling me how much he loves me, you know. And even we've got my children before, and he's never even bothered when I've been pregnant or anything. Well, this one, he's sort of, baby, you know, and things like that. He's really...
The affair highlighted the problems, and you were saying that you were just you'd got into kind of being too matey almost, and that you'd lost the man-woman stuff.
Yeah, it was sort of routine.
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, when, you know, two people have had an affair, that you've got to pick the pieces up if it's possible, and you've got to try. And
but you were saying about going back to where you were before. In fact, actually, that's not the ideal place to be. You want to
what I'm saying
go on with what you've learned.
No, what I'm saying is that obviously there's two sorts of people. It can be that you've had a happy marriage, you can be a bad marriage, but you can have adulterers, and as this lady's quite rightly pointed out, you can have what she calls, and I think it was an apt phrase, serial adulterers.
Yeah.
In my wife's case, I think it was, I was out till 2 and 3 in the morning, I was actually working. Now, she actually thought that I was having an affair, so she thought that I'm going to have an affair. I wasn't having an affair. But at the end of the day...
You sure?
Positive. Believe you, I wasn't nightclubbing or anything like that.
That's not what you told me.
You got it on tape. Basically, all I'm going to say about this is this. I'm not the best person to give advice, but when this happens, after it happened and we're trying to get back together and trying to sort things out, I did everything in my power. I even bugged the car. I did everything, right? I even heard her call me to her mother and saying, "Oh, you only brought me 11 red roses instead of 12. Now that hurt me, right? But I felt it necessary to do that. Now, I don't do that anymore, but from time to time, I will occasionally, just out of the blue, check. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as you don't... No, occasionally, but as long as you don't let it ruin your life.
Hold on, please go on.
I was actually asking how you had access to all these things. I wouldn't have known how to start bugging anything.
Well, you don't want to know about that. But does it improve? This concept, this notion that an infidelity by one or other of the partners can, in some circumstances, or for some couples?
I think so. I've known the guy that I know for quite a long time.
Who you've been having an affair with?
Yes, yeah.
He's married?
He's married, and if his marriage is going fine, I hear from him once a week. As soon as he's had a row with his wife, I hear from him 3 times a day. She's done this, she's done that. Often I agree with what she's done. It sounds good. And I'll say to him, but you're wrong. What she says is right. Go and listen to the woman again.
So what are you saying?
And
You're an aid?
I was sticking up for her.
So you're saying you're an aid to the marriage?
Oh, yes, I think so.
An agony aunt.
An agony aunt.
Listen.
What do you want for yourself?
Well, I'm not quite sure. I'm fairly happy as I am.
Are you?
Yeah.
Well, so you were the mistress. My marriage broke because of a mistress. The following marriage broke again. A serial adultery or whatever. Something led them to divorce. But, I mean, with me, I knew within a week that there was someone else. And for 2 years, I knew that there was someone else, even though I kept saying, I'm trying to break up, and I could hear them on the phone trying to break, swearing and using abusive language.
You knew, you mean, and he knew that you knew. It was open between you?
Well, he kept promising, yes.
But you knew he was going to end the relationship, but you both knew about the relationship.
Yes.
My friend here says that she thinks she was actually contributing to the marriage by I mean, she said she was counselling him in a way. She was kind of telling him to do better things for his wife or whatever. Is there an element?
Not in my marriage. She was doing her
things
best.
are different, though.
Yes, people are individuals. But, I mean, listening to everyone and listening to myself over the years and looking back at my marriage, it lacked of one thing before the marriage and during the marriage, and that's communication. Because if something is missing in our life, if we want something from the other party, we just have to be open. We're married. We took this commitment to be together. So why not? I didn't do it then. I know that if I will go into a marriage again, or even living together, never mind the marriage, counseling before, otherwise no.
When I recognized that the affair was wrong for all of us, I ended the affair, and I insisted that the man that I was involved with go to relate, and either that they reconcile or they get it over with. But I couldn't stand on the outside and wait. And the happy news is they went to relate. They did reconcile. And I think the fact that his wife found out about me made her quite jealous. She had taken him for granted for a long time, and I think she improved the relationship. She did what he needed because he'd been neglected.
So we've got two mistresses here, Anne, Audrey, saying they were a contribution, a positive contribution to the marriage. Anne, Audrey.
In their opinion they were, but a third person can never help.
His wife
a
knows me.
marriage.
She's phoned me. I talked to her. She knows of my existence, and she's known of my existence for years.
Oh, that's after your marriage is over. That's after you're divorced from your husband.
Pardon?
He's remarried this woman, has he?
No,
He's still with her. He's never
he is
left
married.
her.
She's the mistress of the...
Maybe his wife's got another man and she's not so bothered. And
Maybe, but that's not what she says.
I actually had an affair. It certainly didn't spice up my marriage. It made me realise that my marriage was absolutely dead and gone and buried. But I feel awful sitting here saying now that I told my husband that I was going out with this chap and that was that, and he actually said, OK, go, because I think he thought if I let her go, she'll get it out of her system, she'll come back and get on with it. That wasn't what happened. But I have to say, I do feel so terribly guilty now for that.
Did you and your husband have a high sex drive?
John?
Did this lady and her husband have a high sex drive?
No, we
How do you know what a high sex drive is? How can you mention it?
No, for you to have an affair.
That's quite a personal question, but we had, at that point, we had no sex life at all, and we hadn't had one for 8 months. We did have a new baby, but we really had no sex life as such before that.
But you said you started the affair, and it was at that point when you got into the affair that you realised your marriage was at an end. So why did you start the affair?
It's really strange, Robert. It wasn't as if I was out there looking for somebody else. I'd kind of done everything on my own for such a long time. All of a sudden, I got a new job. There was this man. I think just the thrill that somebody else is interested in you for a start, and all of a sudden the attention, the excitement, it's all those old feelings of when you first meet somebody, and it just takes you over without you realising.
And it was in the course then of that, when the affair was consummated, that you realised your marriage was... What did you realise what was wrong? That you didn't love your husband, or...?
Not just that I didn't love him, that we just had absolutely nothing in common with each other at all. And it got so bad that we couldn't even sit in the same room with each other because, this sounds terrible, but everything about him irritated me. The way he spoke, the way he sat, the way he walked, the way he talked, everything.
I don't think you liked your husband.
That sounds awful now, and if he's watching this, he's going to kill me.
What's the guilt? You mentioned guilt.
The guilt is because, on the face of it, we were a happy little family with an 8-month-old baby. And we were a happy family. And the fact that I took that baby away from him and left him just makes me feel really, really guilty. I left him.
Jeremy?
I think we keep talking about sex as being the sort of driving force behind all of this.
It isn't,
and it really isn't the driving force.
No.
The driving force, no, it is. It becomes important. No, it's important to you, with respect. It becomes an important factor. The most important thing is you're looking for friendship very often. You're looking for somebody to talk to. And I think this is the biggest problem that men have. And I've experienced it myself. I've just gone through, I had a bad breakdown, tried to commit suicide in January of this year. I've gone through 6 or 7 weeks in a psychiatric hospital sorting myself out. And what I had forgotten, or what I hadn't got in touch with, was my femininity. The thing inside, the part inside of me that relates to women. I didn't know what it was. I'd been brought up in a macho, rugby-driven society, swilling beers with the boys.
What are you talking about? What did you need your femininity for? Of course that's important. And I understand what you're saying.
To start to understand and communicate with women on a better level than I've ever been used to before.
Because you'd had an affair, or because your partner had an affair?
I've never been married.
But you had a partner?
No, basically, I ended a relationship that went on for 9 years. She was a victim of a very cruel adulterer.
She had an affair.
No, she was the victim of a cruel adulterer. They then got divorced. I went out with her, and all the baggage that she took from that relationship, she brought into our relationship. All the distrust, all the anger, all the jealousy, and everything like. And actually now, through my own fault, it's on you. I'm the victim.
Yeah.
And I've gone to try and find out why, and I've got in touch with some of my sensitivity and some of my, and I'm beginning to understand that what it comes down to at the end of the day is understanding what women want and women understanding what men need, and vice versa.
You shouldn't need to be told that. You start with that.
We're never told it.
We
When are we
shouldn't
told?
need to be. It's instinctive, isn't
We're
it?
not told at school.
No.
Yeah, but
Nobody
you must be
talks to
very
us
weak.
about relationships at school.
You must be
Do
very
mistresses
weak.
have rights,
Who must be
Caroline?
weak?
You must be
I mean,
very
these
weak.
experts
You wanna
who've
commit
been lecturing
suicide?
us tell us that mistresses have to be...
There are other reasons.
You asked me a question.
Hey, what do you
There are other reasons.
Oh, hang on. Sorry.
He
I don't want to
said-
interrupt you. No?
He said I must be very weak because I wanted to commit suicide. There were other reasons.
Definitely. I think if you can't get hold of yourself and sort yourself out, I mean, you're not a young man. Well, you are a youngish man, but you know, kids do things like that. You've got to get your act together. You've got to get your act together.
There were many other reasons.
Let Jeremy answer.
There were many other reasons, and with due respect to you, and you don't know what those reasons were. I had business problems, I had all sorts of other problems at the same time, and it built up to such an extent I could not see the wood for the trees.
Do mistresses have to come back to the subject and these experts who tell us this? Do they? Do
Of course
mistresses
they have rights, absolutely. And for everybody to sort of blame the mistress, it's shoving all the problems onto her rather than looking at the problems in the marriage.
What are their rights?
Their rights are the same as any individual's rights.
But they have feelings. They have feelings.
They too have feelings.
Well, they do have feelings. Yes, certainly. But no, I don't agree. They don't have rights. I've had my 40 years of my life have been wiped out, absolutely wiped out. And I, like Jeremy, I tried to commit suicide.
But by blaming the mistress, it's not going to solve the problem.
Yeah, I mean, the mistress isn't the person that put anything at risk.
This lady has ruined my life, the lives of my children.
It's not this
my
lady.
home. My home is gone. I don't know where I'm going to live. I'm being chucked out.
Caroline, you said it wasn't the mistress's fault.
No, because
Caroline?
I mean, it's not of her that's put anything at risk. I mean, it's the man who's married who is jeopardising his situation. It's not the mistress. I mean, you know, we don't go out to hurt. You know, I mean, they.
You're a mistress.
Yeah, I was.
Or was?
I was, yeah, for about a year and a half. And he went back to his family life. Yeah, I was hurt, and I feel that I was, well, I suppose, used to a degree. And at the end of it, I seemed to be, well, I felt I was the only one sort of lost. Because I ended up with nothing. All I ended up with sort of stories of how his wife didn't understand him and their situation.
Well, you knew he was married when you went out with him.
Yes, I did.
So you take that chance. When you go out with a married man, you take the chance that he's married and I'll probably end up hurt.
Oh, yeah,
So
I
you
know, but
take
you
your
can't
chance,
help
don't
your
you?
own emotions, and you can't help
Let me get somebody
how
else in.
feelings are.
Yeah. Go on. No, you were waiting to speak. No, please. You're talking about the mistress.
I don't think they do have rights. I mean, when it that's the personal opinion, but going back to who's to blame.
Why don't they have rights?
Well, within the relationship, it's I don't know. I believe there's more into the marriage.
I think they do have rights. I mean, just say you are someone's mistress for 5 or 6 years, and he's been telling you stories, and he's been keeping you in a certain style that you're accustomed, and then he decides just to throw you away for some other one. Come on, I think you do have a right, and I think he should compensate you for that.
But surely at the end of the day, that you know you're going into that situation.
No, you don't. If he tells you that he's going to leave her and it's going to take time, he needs to get a divorce.
But that's the same old story and everything. I think to a certain degree.
I do think you should be able to get counselling and compensation in the end.
Compensation?
Yes, even compensation.
What's the compensation?
Well, if you're someone's mistress and say he set you up in a flat and, you know...
You're a mistress?
No, I'm not.
You're not?
But I tell you, if I was, he certainly would compensate me.
June?
No, why should you have all that I've worked for? I took the brunt of everything, working up to work our way up in life, and now it's all been snatched away from me.
Excuse me, but your husband doesn't have a mistress, he's left you. There's a difference. Your husband hasn't got a mistress. He has left you. Having a mistress is when you're still in the marriage.
He's got another woman.
Yeah. Yes, but he's no longer with you, is he?
But why? Why?
No, but having a mistress is actually when he still lives with you.
Oh yes, he was living with me.
He will have had a mistress.
I suspect
That's why he's gone.
Well, I personally think you're better out rid of him.
But she's losing her home.
Going to get a man's voice into this.
She's financially not better off.
Oh, no, she's not better off.
Married men and running off with women, but in fact I'm in a situation where I am the man seeing a married woman, and I'm in a sort of limbo where I don't know what she's actually doing, but you still cling to the hope that she might eventually leave.
She's using
If she's married, get rid of her.
Well,
she's married.
Yeah.
She's just using you for sex.
But
I know, because lots of my
it's easy to
girlfriends
say
doing
that, though,
the
isn't
same.
it? But
They're bored with their marriages, and so they're
when you cross
taking-
the when you cross the threshold between a physical need and the emotional need,
he's serious.
I mean, I
know, but it's madness. Those women, you know, when married women have affairs, they're very different from men, and they just go for it, and they're vicious with it.
But even though they sort of pretend that it's all, you know.
If she wants you, why isn't she
I
with
don't
you?
know
She
what I'm going to do. And
Hold on. What? Tell him.
I think they're out for what they can get.
Yeah.
What, the married? What does that mean?
The married woman.
What does that mean? Out for what they can get? What do you
From
mean, money?
you, from you.
Sex.
Anything.
Yeah,
Could be anything. Couldn't it?
Oh, is that different from men? Did he? Hold on. Lorraine's going to counsel you. Here you are.
I'll be honest with you. When you said
Because she's a married woman.
yeah,
Or what?
I'm the married woman, but I
She's
had
the
an
married
affair
woman,
with
Justice
a
said.
married man. We was both married. So when the lady over there said that I'm out for what I can get, I am not, because he already had a marriage anyway. So I'm out
It's
for what I
so
can
easy
get.
for other people from the outside to say, "Oh, just get out of it, just walk away."
Yeah.
Just
It's-
leave it.
it's-
Walk
it's-
away
it's-
from
it's
it. It's here in the heart. You want that person.
Why doesn't she go to you? Why does she stay with her husband if she
Because of
loves
the-
you?
She puts it down to the guilt on feeling sorry for her husband.
She wants to be with you. He's paying the mortgage.
He sounds as if he needs counselling.
He does. He does. He does.
No, I don't mean that any disparagingly, because that is, of course, what our experts are telling us
Yeah.
the mistress needs. That if
Everybody
the
needs
affair
it.
ends, the mistress needs do they, Anne?
Yeah, I think
Anne?
mistresses do need counselling.
We all
yes.
need
Your husband's mistress, you'd counsel her?
No, but I think she needed to go to counselling because my husband told us such an absolute pack of lies that the girl was disturbed by it.
And
I felt sorry for her.
And you think it's a good idea that there should be counselling and therapy available?
Definitely, yes. If it helps people, there should definitely be counselling.
You're looking at me with kind of, I don't know what to describe it as.
counsel,
It's your
Matt.
daughter.
Yes.
It's your daughter who says this. Don't you agree with your daughter?
Well, yes, really, I do. If he's told her lies, like
He told this girl so many terrible
Yes.
lies.
Would you?
they do tell
That she
lies.
doesn't. She needed help because she was distraught. This girl.
And
I felt sorry
are you
for
saying
her.
they needed your husband's mistress needed help
I'd
too?
counsel her.
You'd counsel.
Personally.
Okay, I'm the mistress. Go on, pretend I'm her. Counsel me, counsel. No, I'm here.
Just
counsel me.
Couldn't do it on the television.
No, it's got to be one-to-one in a room, my own.
Sheila, should
No. I mean, when you know somebody's, very ill with cancer, I mean, I could have died with what I had. To not leave it alone then, that she does need cancer.
So is this something we've got to take seriously?
She needs help.
Well, I think it is, yes, because women are asking too little for themselves if they're just the mistress of a married man. They're shortchanging themselves. And we need to know why they have such low self-esteem. That they'll take just the bits that are left over from a marriage.
It's always been the way.
But, all right, well, ask them, why do you... I'm looking for a mistress.
Well,
why do you take... You ain't Caroline. Why do you do this? Take the bits left over from a marriage? She says low self-esteem.
You get involved with the person. You don't get involved with their situation in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you've only got the option of taking what's there, what is on offer.
Yes.
So that is how you basically sacrifice.
But some people, Caroline, at that stage would say that is not enough. sling your hook.
Yeah, it was
more
very
than
easy
this.
to say, but by that stage, you're too involved with the person.
You've got to be strong.
You know, it's
and
your
get
feelings.
out
It's
of
not.
it.
Yeah, but there's always a bit, isn't there? There's always a bit saying, "Hang on, I'm worth more than this."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean that eventually what happened.
And you finished, did you?
Yeah, well, it was
"I'm
both.
worth
It was
more."
both sort of both ways,
Yes,
but it
well
was
done.
getting too much hard work.
My ex-partner, I was with him for 10 years, lived with him for 5. He had an affair with my best friend, whom I thought was a rather close friend. I suspected for a while. I hadn't loved him for about 6 months and was trying to get rid. She did me a great favour by doing so. I promptly, when I found out, I promptly packed his suitcases in a quite a hilarious manner and promptly put them on all his belongings to the pavement when it was hail, rain and snow.
Well, I'll tell you what, there is no snow, we hope, in Los Angeles, where the show comes from, all next week from California. See you Monday in Hollywood. Take care of yourselves.
Are you a bachelor and want to stay that way? Have you never been tempted to marry? Call Kilroy now on 0891 55 5588 if you have decided to spend the rest of your life without a wife.
This is The Morning on BBC One. Coming up next, the 10 o'clock news. Then it's time for The Truth in Albert Square. Michelle plucks up the courage to tell Pauline about her pregnancy. Kelvin's out for revenge after someone gives him a duff £20 note. Sharon and Den have a disagreement, and Willie's constitution is worrying Ethel. All in EastEnders. Then it's time for Good Morning with Anne and Nick.
Hello.
Good morning.
And it's cup final weekend. Oh, yes. Excited?
Oh no. And just in case you're not a keen football fan, Saturday afternoon is actually a wonderful opportunity to go shopping because the shops are almost empty and there's no traffic and you can park and things. Let us know what you're going to be doing tomorrow and how you cope with cup final fever if other members of your family are being absolutely unbearable about it. 0121 415 5000.
Now, today we meet an army widow whose husband was killed nearly 2 years ago in a mock battle.
Yes, she and her daughter were thrown out of their army house and they're still waiting for compensation. We find out why.
Our celebrity guest is longtime close companion of Kenny Everett, Cleo Rocos.
It's gardening day and I'll bet Stefan won't be sitting on his laurels watching the cup final tomorrow. He'll be out in the garden tending his begonias, won't you, Stefan?
I should actually be sowing my runner beans because, as usual, Derby County aren't in the cup final, so I have only academic interest. Yes, I should be sowing runner beans and thinking about perfume. You know, gardeners spend a lot of time smelling around the garden. They don't just go sniffing around the compost heap. I think it's terribly important you have flowers that not only look good but smell good as well. And look at that. It's wonderful. What could be better than that? And I should be telling you how to grow those, how to sow them, and also, believe it or not, telling you that you can get just as much perfume from a plant like that that doesn't have any flowers at all, and you can pinch that off and run it under your bathwater afterwards. Absolutely wonderful.
Thanks, Stefan. Meanwhile, as you might expect, Will Hanrahan, an Everton fan, just in case you didn't know, and Ainsley, an Arsenal fan, can think of nothing but football. Morning, guys.
Morning. It is cup final weekend, in case you've been living on the planet Mars. Everton will take on Manchester United tomorrow, and a man called Nick Cole wrote to me and said, Will, I live in Paris, but I'd like to have a taste of Merseyside as I watch the cup final. Can you cook scouse? I said, no, but I know a man who can.
Me, yes, me, and I'll be doing it. Will it be the blue of Everton with the Scousers pie, or the red of Man United with the Manchester tart? Hooray, hooray!
Everton.
Meanwhile, a far prettier site, Tanya Breyer, has hot news of how and where to spot the celebrities as you holiday this summer.
And we've got ideas for the May ball. We look at the latest ball gown fashions.
So join us in half an hour.
Luton on.
Not this year.
Then at 12:05, it's Gloria Hannaford and Pebble Mill. She'll be joined by former choir boy turned singing sensation Aled Jones, who's now appearing as Joseph. A new wrestling series, Rumble, began last Saturday. The stars of the show, Leslie Joseph and Brian Glover, explain all to Ross King. Norway's premier singer, Cecil, performs a number from her new album, Deep Within My Soul. She rose to stardom when she was only 16. Actress Suzanne Burden talks about her role as Jennifer Holt in The Vet. And there's music from the multi-talented Clark Peters. He's co-written and is starring in a new musical based on Nat King Cole's life. all on Pebble Mill. On today's quiz call, we offer you a way of playing cricket in your living room without destroying the furniture. This game's console comes with Brian Lara Cricket, a simulation in which you control batsmen, fielders, and a selection of spin, swing, and fast bowlers. With fully digitised sound, you even get the roar of the crowd and the sound of leather against willow. For your chance to win, answer this. Where's the home of English cricket? Is it A, Wimbledon, B, Wembley, or C, Lords? Which of these is the home of English cricket? Is it Wimbledon, Wembley, or Lords? Pick the right answer, our quiz call computer picks the winner. Call 0891 339933. That's 0891 339933. Lines are open till midnight tomorrow. I'll tell you who's won and the answer on Monday. Keep it right here. Coming up, EastEnders. We've Good Morning with Anne and Nick at 10:35. And at lunchtime, it's Pebble Mill with Gloria. Friday morning on BBC One.
Saturday night on BBC One, and at 5:30 it's All Pecs on Deck in Rumble. Then at 6, Jim's got the wrong script.
Nice to see you,
At 6:30, will she or won't she?
You're asking me out?
Yeah, you know, like on a date.
And at 7:20, what has this Take That fan done to be nabbed by the Confession Squad? Then after the live draw for the National Lottery...
It's the Holy Grail. Food for the next millennium.
A new wonder weed proves a recipe for trouble in bugs. Saturday night on BBC One.
Now on BBC One, the news with Jennie Bond. It's 10 o'clock.
Good morning. The Royal College of Midwives has suspended plans for a ballot on industrial action after an offer of talks on pay. Like nurses, midwives have been offered 1% with up to another 2% available in local deals.
The ballot was intended to seek approval from midwives for industrial action short of striking, such as working to rule and withdrawing goodwill. Although, like the nursing unions, they say they would never take action which would damage patient care. Now, exploratory discussions are to be held with NHS officials.
I do see some hope. The agenda setting meeting will be on Tuesday, and on my agenda will be issues of midwives being downgraded and losing jobs. We want a pay structure for midwives which reflects their level of responsibility, and we want to talk about putting resources into midwifery services.
The talks will be closely watched by other health unions for signs of possible compromise from the government.
Labour has criticised government plans to set up a new Commons committee to consider in detail Lord Nolan's recommendations on MPs' conduct. Labour says the proposals, announced at the end of last night's debate on the Nolan report, look like a delaying tactic.
It was only at the very end of a debate in which a succession of Conservative MPs had argued against restrictions on outside interests and earnings that it became clear what the government planned to do next. The proposal was that a committee of MPs should consider the Nolan recommendations in detail.
When I pressed Tony Newton, he was unable to say whether the remit of this committee would be to implement the Nolan report or to consider it. If it's to consider it, then it clearly is a tactical device for delay in order to appease the Tory right-wingers.
We've acted very quickly. We've had a debate within a week of the Prime Minister publishing the report. Now we're setting up a working group to come forward with specific proposals for action.
It was always going to be difficult for the Commons as a whole to work out a detailed response to Nolan, but referring the recommendations of one committee to another committee has inevitably exposed the government to accusations of delay.
The Sinn Féin President, Gerry Adams, has welcomed the proposal of informal talks with the Northern Ireland Secretary, Sir Patrick Mayhew, when they attend a White House conference in Washington next week. Speaking at a book signing session in Philadelphia, Mr. Adams also renewed his calls for all-party talks to start as soon as possible. People who use sunbeds run the risk of getting skin cancer, according to a report in the medical journal The Lancet. The report highlights the dangers of using sunbeds too often and for too long. Until now, experts believed up to 20 sessions a year was safe, But the government's senior medical officer has now suggested that any use of a sunbed could be harmful. That's it. More news in an hour.
Now the headlines in the southeast. A family from Zaire are being tested for the deadly Ebola virus. The adult and 2 children who flew in from Moscow became unwell at an immigration office in Croydon. It's believed the family are at a high-security isolation unit at Coppets Wood Hospital in Muswell Hill. It'll be at least 7 days before doctors know if the family have the illness, but health officials say it's unlikely they've been infected. Detectives investigating the murder of the East London boy Daniel Handley are going to publish a photo fit of a suspect today. Police say 9-year-old Daniel was seen in the West Country before his death. His body was found last month in Bristol. He'd been abducted from his home in Beckton last October. It's thought he was taken by paedophiles. Residents in Greenwich last night voted to take court action over traffic pollution in the London Borough. They want to force councillors to close one of the most congested roads in the area. A consumers group is appealing to the public for help to protect trees in suburban streets which they say are being destroyed by careless cabling work. The Consumers Association claim thousands of trees are being killed off. Well, those are the headlines so far this morning. Now look at the weather forecast with Ian McCaskill.
Hello, it's still looking good for the weekend, but it's not perfect today. There are bands of showers moving southwards across the country on those weather fronts, not surprisingly. This one clearing out the way by the afternoon, though. This one continued to give trouble in the north. And then this front weakening over northern Britain during the course of tomorrow. But these fronts coming up to spoil the weather on the second half of Sunday and early next week. But this high pressure should ensure most of us at least a fine weekend. But back to today, you can see that first band of showers there moving southwards across England at the moment, and another area of showery rain coming down across northern parts of